It's Not Another Buffalo Podcast, hosted by three of the most underqualified sports personalities this side of the canal. With Jon.
All you people out there who are like, these idiots don't know anything. First of all, you're right. And second of all,
Pat.
I'm just a dad talking in a closet, but I'm just saying.
And Brando.
We have this trust built on whatever it is, like Bibles and gold bricks and whatever Brandon Bean's drinking over there.
all right, welcome back to Not Another Buffalo Podcast. I'm Jon. I'm here with my buddies, Pat and Brando. We're recording this on a Monday evening. Not sure what day this week we'll get this episode out because we usually release Fridays, but I'm thinking I might release this ahead of time so it's not immediately outdated by the time it comes out on Friday. Just want to let you guys know this episode is brought to you guys by Small City Realty. If you're looking to buy, sell, or manage property in Western New York, you got to call my guy, Jkorz at 585-409-1088. Again, that's 585-409-1088. If there's any good houses we think you should take a look at that Zach has listed, I'll put them in the show notes so you can check it out there. And this episode is brought to you by the Jkorz agency for all your insurance needs. So having some days to recover here, boys. Are we feeling a little bit better than we were at midnight Eastern on Thursday after that? I don't even know what to call it.
Debacle.
I was gonna say debacle, but I was like, and I don't think I can call it a debacle because it's like it wasn't like a total travesty. It's like the book is gonna be out on whether it was a successful draft or not. Like we're not gonna know until 2 years from now. But I don't know, Pat, how you doing? Have you mentally recovered?
I think so, yeah. I had a wedding this weekend, so I got to have a couple of drinks, forget about it. But, I mean, it does feel good to know he was Josh's guy, though. He was the guy that Josh wants. And obviously, there's some conflict of interest there, but it is cool to know that there was some more behind it, I guess. Yeah. You kind of hope that Josh Allen and Brandon Bean just kind of think alike, right? And, I don't think Josh is calling the shots behind the scenes. Do you guys, you don't feel that way? Because he wanted Dalton Kincaid last year, right?
I think every single player in any position or GM or coach is going to tell you that they got their guy. And that's the guy that I wanted because they don't. Yeah, and Bean was pretty honest about it. I think he said they didn't have somebody that they loved with that 28th pick, so they got to move back into the tier that they wanted. It's always funny. I laugh about that. It's coach talk. It's GM talk. You're not gonna. What are you gonna do? You're like, oh man, I really wanted Brian Thomas Jr., but I had to settle for this guy. So hopefully he's pretty good. And
right.
Wouldn't Allen rather be throwing to anybody else too? Wouldn't he want to throw to Romeo Dunzo? Just say his name for me.
Roma Dunze.
Or
it's all right. You had the first name and the last name separately, and then you just so you got there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can edit that together, but we'll
that's
see.
all right. That's all right. It's a running joke now. A couple of the employees at the school I coach at tuned in and we had a full conversation about names and how I struggle with them. And he said that it's good that the new linebacker goes by Eddie because his name is so hard to pronounce. I saw the phonetic. Did you send it, Jon? You sent it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I saw that. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Edifuan Alofosio. I messed that up. Eddie is good.
So he was telling
we will learn it because you know what? I always thought it was okay to abbreviate player names, and Brandon, I don't know if you saw this, but Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen was doing an interview. He was talking to a couple of guys in his native language. I think I only saw subtitles, right? So I think he might have been in Europe with a couple of hockey guys over there, and they were asking him, it's like because they're joking like how nobody can pronounce your name over there, and they call you this, and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen was like, I don't know why they can't just say my full name when they talk about me, like Ukko-Pekka, because that's his full first name, right? Or Luukkonen, and they all say like UPL and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, if we're gonna talk about him, I was like, I get it. Like his nickname is mostly first teammates, but I'll try to do the full name there. But we're not officially covering the team, also, so I feel like I'm not getting paid to cover the Bills like some of these guys in the room who are asking him questions.
Yeah,
I need to try to like put the effort into pronouncing guys' names and not get it wrong, especially if they're going to be on our team for a while. So I need to look up the phonetic spelling and practice it before our next episode. So that's my homework for this.
I do the very best that I can. And I went around the room in my kindergarten classroom today because I call Brody, Ben, Brody, Grace, and Antonio because they're all brothers. And I'm like, guys, it's important to get your names right. I have 400 of you. I'm doing my best. You got to work with me. It's never malicious. I'm so sorry, but I'm doing my best. All right, I'm doing my best.
That's
My
right.
best isn't good enough.
Brandon's brain hard drive. If you're getting on him for forgetting sports names, just remember that there's an entire library of 400 kids per year.
Yeah,
you have
for
to
10
remember
years,
too.
so it's like,
Right, that adds up quick.
it was cool to see the, I want to say, diverse group of players that they got, though. I think the rugby player in the 7th round who's never played football ever, and just a physical freak specimen. Freak is in a positive way in this scenario. And to get the stud safety, corner safety, I think he's going to be, Jordan Poyer. Yeah, Cole Bishop's going to be just Jordan Poyer 2.0.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Interesting stuff. And everyone who listens to Bill's content has already probably heard this, but obviously he used to match up against Dalton Kincaid in practice. And he told Brandon Beane in his draft interview, he's like, when we were in practice, I got Dalton Kincaid. Like I got him more times than not. And Beane said he talked to Dalton Kincaid and was like, Dalton Kincaid was like, that's how it was. He got me. So I don't want to go so far and be like, okay, here comes the Travis Kelce equalizer. But if any team could use help in that department, right? Like have a safety that can match up on a tight end like that.
It's not even just the safety though. And again, you just said it, but I'm going to call him Eddie. Eddie is also a super highly rated pass coverage linebacker. I think he's pretty quick. I want to say I read a tweet about this. Is quick to the ball when the tight end catches the ball, and there's not a lot of rack yards on him. But we'll see how it translates to the NFL. But
right, and that's going to be years down the road, right? Because you're thinking that his role on this team, unless barring injuries, is going to be mostly special teams. Yeah, for the first few years at least. You would think. You never know. You never know when a player is going to ascend. But
we said the same about Bernard and Benford and all these guys. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's interesting. We talk about it from time to time that the last game of the year, what happens in the last game of the year is indicative of what your team needs. And we've seen it. We saw it. There's the trend here. D-line couldn't sack Mahomes. Still couldn't sack Mahomes. Still couldn't sack Mahomes. Well, we still can't sack Mahomes, but that doesn't matter. But the receiver, lack of depth. And we're talking drops this year.
Lack of explosive plays, particularly in that Kansas City game. So
I saw this tweet and I want to give credit for it. It's Thomas DeLaus, and he tweeted, a major focus for Allen's receivers in 2024 is having a group that is sure-handed, and their 4 primary targets of Kincaid, Coleman, Shakir, and Samuel had a combined total of 10 drops on 289 targets. So it's a drop rate of 3.4%. So it seemed to be a point of emphasis for this team to stop shooting yourself in the foot as much as possible. These games are decided by 1 or 2 plays at a time. So to see these guys go get it. And then the other one I saw that Bruce Nolan just tweeted out was the 78 or 88 targets that Coleman got. Only 55 of them were deemed catchable, and he caught 50 of the 55 balls that were thrown at him. So that's also another pretty good.
And to add on to what you were just saying, the drop percentage is going to go up because your quarterback, Josh Allen, it's not because of inaccuracies, but he throws that ball hard. So anybody's catch percentage, that's what they said about Dalton Kincaid, one of the most sure-handed tight ends. And even he's having drops because Josh Allen is whipping the ball at him when he's running a slant or something like that.
I think Dalton Kincaid has the hardest job of everybody to catch because he's not going deep. He's catching these off the line of scrimmage. Gabe Davis drops him 40 yards down the field. Diggs had some drops towards the end of the season, and a couple critical ones in that Kansas City game, not just the last one. But anyway, I want to talk to you guys about the trade up because this is kind of a little bit of a polarizing thing. So, it's fun to talk about. Do you think it's okay to trade back with your arch nemesis to give them the wide receiver you want? Like, because our overreaction in the moment was like, what are they doing? Like, it's Kansas City. Brandon, I think right before they traded back, I was like, I think they're going to trade back. And you're like, okay, well, they could do it with Carolina, maybe back into the second round, maybe whoever else was in there. But he's like, they're not going to do it with Kansas City. You said that. And it's just kind of the assumption that they weren't going to do it with Kansas City. So very polarizing opinions. Like Jeremy and Joe on the morning show are dead set against it. And I don't know if that's how I feel. So I want to hear what your guys' gut reaction is to. And Pat, feel free to chime in because we've been talking our butts off and haven't given you a word yet. But what do you think? Do you think it was okay or not? Do you not care?
I mean, we'll see. I think time will tell. I mean, right. I also think, if we trade back with the Panthers and the Chiefs still pick them the pick later, what's really, I guess the difference, that's where I'm kind of coming from when I think about it, because if you think about the other scenario where they don't trade with the Chiefs, right? Say they take Keon Coleman at 28, or maybe they take Leggett, however you say it.
Yeah.
Kansas City likely is still going to get their guy a couple picks later if they didn't like Xavier Worthy, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, you know, that scenario, you end up without the draft picks. You know, there is some logic to not letting the team that's your arch nemesis get whoever they want because,
but
right?
Are you better with Xavier Worthy on your team not producing because he's not producing on the Chiefs? Or are you better with Keon Coleman, I guess, producing against whatever Xavier Worthy produces on the Chiefs, I guess.
To me, it comes down to the logistics of those picks after them. Like if he would have gone, if there's any chance that he would have gone, because if there's a high chance that he was going to be available when the Chiefs picked, then I think that trading with the Chiefs being a negative thing is a purely emotional reaction to it. Right. Because
I don't know.
Because logically, if you're in the same place plus picks, how can you say that that's a worse place than if you have the same draft class? I mean, again, we're talking about, Ray Davis might not be on this sheet because that pick was different, you know, and it might be somebody else. And that could have been a different dart that, you know, ended up being something totally different. So we won't know until 4 years from now, but I don't think it matters when you're talking about trade ups in the draft. If you trade a great player to your arch nemesis, I think that's different. If you traded Stephon Diggs to the Kansas City Chiefs, I think that's totally abhorrent, however you want to say that.
This guy could be better than Diggs.
Could be
better than Tyreek Hill. Yeah, that's the key word, right? Could be. I don't know, dude. I think that if this is 4 years ago, it's right after the Mahomes trade, 13 seconds doesn't happen. We haven't gotten smoked in the playoffs. Well, we didn't get smoked in the playoffs. You know what I mean? We haven't gotten beat like the way that we did. Just, it's different. And I think that you look at teams all up and down, and money spends the same everywhere, right? That's the saying. I can spend my money on Bud Light. I could spend my money on Busch Light. I could spend my money on Miller Light. But something about Bud Light, people decided to stop buying it. And, you know, it's costing American jobs and it's doing all this crap. So it's, you know, people find a reason not to do things and it could be effective. And I think if you have gotten beat by these guys, and not only have you gotten beat, you've gotten beat in different ways. You got beat with the speedy Tyreek Hill. You got beat getting dinked and dunked on down the field. You got beat by the big tight end. You have to be able to recognize that if Andy Reid, who could be the best coach in the NFL right now, wants this guy and you want to pair him with the strong arm quarterback, I think you at least got to make him pay more. And it was the cheapest trade up in the last 20 years in history.
That's true. If you want to take exception with that, I absolutely, I can support that.
Supply and demand, and mark that price up, right? If toilet paper is going for $400 a roll during COVID, then this receiver is going for more than what he went for. And it's interesting to me. I know McDermott respects Reid, but the fact that you've gotten your butt kicked by these guys, like you don't even try to price gouge him. You don't even try to. They said they had an offer from New England. They didn't trade him to New England because he was in the division, but Kansas City in the conference was doable. They said they took the best deal available, which I understand if you think that.
Yeah, New England's deal was probably crap at that point if it didn't beat out, Kansas City's deal.
I mean, let's say like they do end up dropping one in the postseason to the Chiefs. Is this something where we look back at this and say, Brandon Beane, not Brandon Habermas, but Brandon Beane's on the hot seat? Like, yes. Is this a potentially job losing move? If at whatever, I guess, 10 months from now,
anything's a potentially job losing move if it goes terribly, right? Like
within 1 year, do you think it could go badly enough that he loses his job based on this offseason?
I think Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane are 100% safe, at least for one more season after this one, because I think that the way that they're looking at it, and probably the way that they pitch it to Terry Pegula, is this is a 2-year window. They call it a team in transition, but this is not a rebuild. This is a retool year, if you want to call it that. They have a ton of draft capital for next year. I mean, if they go ahead and trade a lot of that draft capital to acquire some guy like Brandon Ayuk or something like that, then you can say that this is not a retooling year and they're all in for this year. But I think that they're going to look to just over deliver a little bit on expectations with young players. And to talk about your Chiefs point, Brandon, there's two different ways to look at it, right? There's the, how Jeremy and Joe talked about it was like, if you guys have ever played Catan, I love playing Catan, but you can trade with other players basically. But if someone's close to winning, it's like you kind of blackball them a little bit. Like, I'm not trading with you. You're close to winning.
True.
Even if it helps me, why would I help you?
Yeah.
And I think that metaphor works when you play Catan with like 4 players, but you're playing in an NFL with 31 other players besides yourself. And if you spend your assets or you make your own draft capital a little bit worse just to try to block the Chiefs from doing something that's only a couple moves up. I mean, it's not like getting like, Marvin Harrison Jr. or something like that. It's getting a guy who, the book is still out on.
No, I feel you.
If you're playing small ball at that point with one team, and I feel like if you're always chasing Kansas City, you're never going to catch them. You're always going to be 1 year behind. If you're trying to just beat one team, that's not the team that's going to beat you in the playoffs, because the chances of you meeting them in the playoffs you're not going to meet that team in the playoffs every year. It's going to be different. It's single elimination. You're going to face different teams. You're going to play more games than the games you play against the Chiefs. And I know they've been the one to eliminate us the past few years, and that's a constant, but you can't just retool to beat one team. And sorry, not to insert another point in here after this, but I think this is a huge topic. Every year we're kind of like, the Bills have almost kind of mimicked the Chiefs a little bit, but they're always 1 year behind. And you're always going to be 1 year behind because the Chiefs have won these Super Bowls in different ways. They've won it one time with the air raid offense and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And this past year, they won it because of their defense was prolific in the playoffs, and they kept teams low scoring, and the offense did its job. But the offense wasn't like the most amazing thing. So whenever somebody brings up a metaphor like, oh, well, maybe this offense will look like, okay, this looks like the receiving room of Kansas City last year. They have a great tight end, and, Dalton Kincaid isn't even that yet by any stretch of the imagination, but they're like, okay, maybe a weak receiving room, just a bunch of guys for right now, and really good quarterback and good tight end. You can get by. Look, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl with that. And I'm like, the Chiefs won a Super Bowl in spite of that, in spite of their wide receiver room, and not because of the elite talent in there. So it's like, I think it's dangerous to try to just mimic what the Chiefs did to win the Super Bowl, because there's so much more involved in that. And like, I don't know why you wouldn't just like, I know that's not what Brandon Beane's looking like, but that's just like a common narrative that kind of pops up. And I'm like, I think that has a lot of fallacies embedded in it. I don't know, not to get on a soapbox and then get back down with nothing for you guys to say.
I think what Pat said, right? What is the window right here? And you said it, we're going to have a ton of cap space and a lot of draft capital next year to rebuild this roster. But it's the fact that I think with this pick, they could have taken a Tyreek Hill type player. This is what this
Xavier Worthy
is. And we saw what they could do. But Kansas City is interesting because if you ever look at their wide receiver drafting history, it's not very good. They have not really hit on much.
Because he could be a Sky Moore for, you know what I mean? For every Tyreek Hill,
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of other guys, if you look at that chart too, like with really fast 40 times, there's a lot of guys that you haven't even heard of because they were in and out of the league.
Yes.
So,
but I think you have to be conscious of your environment. And Brandon Beane, they don't even really have any animosity towards Kansas City. Like you should be pissed. You should care a little bit. And I think that the fact that they looked to replace, I think Coleman's draft pick replaces Gabe Davis, and they did not replace Stephon Diggs. And Curtis Samuel is not Stephon Diggs. He could be good. Brian Cosell called him better than Stephon Diggs right now. We will see with a full season with Josh Allen. Maybe he's a really nice sleeper pick. If you take a look at his over-unders and total yards and fantasy football, maybe he is a huge sleeper in this offense. But the fact that they replaced Gabe Davis with Coleman, which I think is a good comp, and if his floor is Gabe Davis and his ceiling is Mike Evans, really, right? Those are the two players that I think about when I'm thinking of these guys. If we drafted Mike Evans and Worthy is Tyreek Hill, you still are behind them, I think, because the way that Patrick Mahomes can throw the ball, he is still like Josh Allen needs that. Josh Allen throws to open receivers, not these contested catches.
Do you think Curtis Samuel, like a good comp ceiling for him this year, might be like Chris Godwin in that same offense with Mike Evans?
That's a good,
like that might be a decent pairing right there. And again, like he's going to have to develop. I mean, if Keon Coleman comes in and lights the league on fire, I think we'll all be amazed as much as we are happy with it. But I don't know. It's so hard to project because like, it's not like it's still Brian Dabol, right? So it's not like, okay, are we trying to find a Diggs replacement? Like Diggs vacated targets. I don't think one player is going to fill those. Like those are just going to get evenly distributed all the way down from Dalton Kincaid to Curtis Samuel to Khalil Shakir, who we also haven't mentioned, probably taking up a larger target share in there. But Yeah, I don't know. I think when it comes to like what role, I want to talk about it less in terms of like the Stephon Diggs role and more like, okay, well, who's your separator? Who's your technician route runner? Who's your guy who's gonna be your deep guy? Because honestly, like Gabe was kind of the deep guy there for a long time.
Coleman's not a deep guy though.
No, he isn't. He isn't. Yeah. And so that's the one thing that you would be like, okay, well, he's not really a 1-for-1 Gabe Davis replacement. But he does have better hands. So that might be a little bit of an upgrade there. But
to go on what you're saying, you mentioned Brian Dabol. I think maybe I'm being negative here, and maybe it's not a negative, but with the draft that we had, the running back, O-line type of receiver, this possession blocking kind of guy that we had, I think we are going to see the chapters of the Brian Dabol-led offense here close. We are on a different story. Like, totally get that out of your mind. We're not going to have that, and we are really moving towards the McDermott conservative. And he says he's cut from the cloth of Andy Reid in this pass-heavy offense. The pass-heavy offense can still be pass-heavy and look totally different than what Brian Dabol had on the team. And the pass-heavy offense with the Dawson Knox, Kincaid, Coleman, Shakir, and Samuel, it's not going to be 5 out, boom, 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 15 passes a row against the Jets. You're going to see a couple play actions. You're going to see these sweeps. You're going to see these run plays. But we are going to be so far removed from what we loved about Josh Allen, what made us fall in love with him. And maybe that's the evolution of him as a passer. But you look at the way the Chiefs did it, and you look at Brady and Manning. I mean, Brady and Manning played each other 5 times in the playoffs. And you talk about us not playing the Chiefs every year. You know, that's a good chunk of Manning's career in the playoffs. Look at Manning's playoff appearances and how many times he played Brady. It's not the same for Brady because the dude's just a freak. Again, I'm going to use this one as a negative because he just played for so long. But it could be a huge transition into this McDermott, and Brian Dabol is going to be missed, I think, by many people, but it's really on Joe Brady now to identify these guys and use them the way that they can be. And Coleman his ceiling is so high. He didn't play football. He's kind of like Kincaid, late to the game, basketball player, just like Kincaid. It's kind of interesting that they have the same kind of comps because his route running is not great, but it is something that he could work on. And if he's 24 years old and he's been in the league for 4 years already, and he's coming into his own, and then you're looking at a contract, like these are all good things that I like to see, but I just think that schematically we might be in for something we've never seen, nor we might not like, but that doesn't mean it's not going to work because we saw it at the end of the season. The Bills ran off all these wins. So I don't know.
Well, let me say one thing on behalf of all Bills fans. If it works, I don't care what it looks like. Like if they're in the top 5 in offense, no matter how you do it, I think, good offense is good offense. So I think the frustrating part is when you're forcing the run and it's not working and you're like, why are we not passing? We do that well. So
I have Dick Duran flashbacks. So
right. Run, pass, punt. The Dick Duran special.
Well, I think the last thing here that I was going to say is, like you talk about Brandon being hot seat, not replacing Diggs is a huge red flag. But I think you said the 2 years, it's really going to come down to what they do next year, right? If they can't do it in 2 years, I think his seat is burning. He's got the heated seats on at that point. So yeah. But 2 years from now, I think is fair. All right, Pat, let's get some quotes in here and get out of here.
All right. So I know that we watched, and it's really difficult to see like what's going on in the green room. Like I never really understand what's going on. Like I just you just see
in the media room. Or the green room at the draft?
In the green room at the draft. Like, okay, it's gotcha. Like really interesting. Like I was listening to this one post-draft interview, and this guy was like, just in the green room alone, I had coaches from college, high school, little league. I had my mom, my dad, my girlfriend, my best friend, one of my good friends. Oh, and I had another 30 in the crowd. So, that's a lot of pressure, especially if you don't go where you think you're going to go. But like, I mean, I don't know if I would want my family with me in that situation. Extremely stressful. Like it would basically be a normal family function. No, I'm kidding. But so do you guys have an idea who might have said this?
Let's see. I have a question first, Pat. We were talking how on the episode before the draft, has there been anybody who's like attended the draft in person and not been drafted in the first round? Like, I wonder who the 15 people like attending the draft were and if any of them weren't drafted. All right,
this player was drafted within the first 15.
Okay, cool.
Well, that's interesting. Well, sorry, to talk about the history of draft slides. talking about Thurman Thomas, but he got injured. He's supposed to be a top 10 pick. And then he goes in the second round and puts up 12,000 yards in the NFL. MVP. That's a big slide.
Aaron Rodgers slides from a projected number 1 down to what? Number 22?
Yeah, and then you got Dan Marino, right? He slid. Who? So this is from this year you're talking? Sorry, I'm just looking up biggest draft slides.
I can tell you he's within the top 10.
Okay. So let's see. Let's go Rome Odunze.
Nope. I think he had an idea what was going to happen.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Close. I wanted to get a quote from him, but he wasn't giving me any good dialogue. It was just too professional.
All right. Let's see. One of the quarterbacks here.
Yep.
All right. Let's
JJ McCarthy.
No, he wasn't top 10.
I feel like you're going to buy a JJ McCarthy jersey too, but I'm not.
I got the Michigan polo on today.
Nice. Let's go.
I think there's what, 3 in the first 5?
Let's go Caleb Williams.
Yep.
All right, nice.
Yep.
Should have just started at the top.
Yeah, I just figured I'd kind of mislead you there a little bit.
Nice.
Okay, second quote here.
Top 15 to top 10.
After this player got drafted, they said, "Hey, you've been drafted by this team." And he said, "Yes, sir. Come and get me tonight."
It's Keon Coleman.
I think it is Keon Coleman, isn't it?
Keon Coleman.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw the video.
Yeah.
What a strange thing to say. I'd be like, okay.
Well, still one of the most legendary introductory press conferences of all time. Like, did you guys watch the whole thing? He's talking about the jacket that he got from Macy's. He's getting the Wegmans cookie. I mean, it's like 26 shirts has already, put out 3 or 4 shirts already. It's good. Right. He's a cool guy. He'll be fun to cover. Like, he will, if nothing else.
They were talking on the radio today. Maybe it was Derek Kramer was talking about how this could fill that Trey White void. The happy-go-lucky guy, happy to be here, loves the game, wants everything to be a game, loves his sweets. He's not a drinker, not a smoker, but he'll hammer down McDonald's before games. Like, that's my guy. All right, that's my guy. He eats all these chicken sandwiches. Like, you better get the app because the Buffalo Bills are now sponsored by McDonald's. So you gotta get that app. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Which they actually are. They actually are. I'm not just saying that.
No, that makes me sad about Trey, but that also makes me think that the Buffalo Bills social media team is licking their chops at this point because they know what kind of gold can come out of this, like the Trey White Goalie Academy and stuff on that level. So I don't know. Maybe we need
Coleman corn dogs coming soon.
Like the equivalent of Between Two Stalls with Keon Coleman. I don't know.
Instead of Between Two Ferns.
Right. Yeah. Well, have you seen the Between Two Stalls with Jeff Skinner?
Jeff Skinner is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to look those up, Pat. Those are really good.
Okay. So I have one more and I'll read it in the voice that this player sounded like. He sounded like an absolute cartoon character. I was like amazed. I'm just glad I didn't hear him open his mouth like on draft day. He was like, "Golly, I had 0 texts coming into the morning of the draft, but today, the day after the draft, I had about 250. I have some awesome support, but yeah, I got to get back to him." This player talking about unanswered text messages he had after being drafted.
Damn. Well, I mean, you did your best Jerry Jones impression there.
He's from the American South.
Is he a lineman?
No. Okay. Skill position player.
So I was watching
the most skilled of skill position players.
Quarterback. So we're talking.
Is this Bo Nix?
No, close though. Resembles Bo Nix.
Travis Hunter from Florida State.
No.
First round quarterback.
Yep. Top 5 quarterback.
Top 5 quarterback. All right, let's go. Michael Penix.
Nope.
I don't know where any of these guys are from, so I'm just spitballing.
Nope.
Drake May. Jaden Daniels.
Drake May, yes, it is Drake May.
Drake May.
Yeah, not Jaden Daniels, but Drake May. He was like, golly, he was like, I'm out here in New England right now. He was like all excited. He was like, winning culture. And you just like see Gerard Mayer and it's just like, okay. Glad you're happy. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy this moment. Okay.
Oh my God.
And then he gets a call 5 minutes later. It's like, get off the stage. Get off the stage like he did with Gronk or like Belichick did with Gronk.
What I would give to fast forward a year and listen to Boston radio.
Yes.
WEEI or whatever.
Did you hear the guy? He was a lineman, and I'm not saying this as an insulting thing, because if I was 21 and just made $35 million, I'd be freaking out too. But they're doing the interview, and every single question, like, "Oh, are you excited?" He's like, "Oh, shoot, man, I'm so excited." And then the next question, "How do you think you're gonna fit?" "Oh, shoot, man, I think I'm gonna be able to be a great fit." Yeah, what are you going to do when you get to, "Oh, shoot, man, I don't know yet." But he said, "Oh, shoot," like every single time. I'm like, this poor kid sounds very nervous, but he's doing his best interview here. But
got an after his public speaking class, yes.
Yeah.
That is funny.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I'm sure we'd all have our things if we had to go through that. Like,
I'd be freaking out, yeah.
Right.
I meant that with no insult. I thought it was, I just thought it was funny.
No, that's it. That is
kind of
funny.
cute.
That
You know,
is funny.
these kids nervous. These guys are kids. You see the lineman drafted by the Chargers? He looks 9.
He did. Oh my
He did.
God. Yeah. That's what we said on the broadcast. You're like, oh my God, who is that kid?
Yeah.
But
they're babies.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
We're getting close to 30. Don't like the sound of that. Anyway.
The separation is wild now, though. These young guys coming into the league, it's like, it's different. When Josh came in, it was like, oh, this is one of us. You know, it's like a buddy.
Yeah. He's our age.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
And now Josh looks older now. He's got the beard and he's filled out. And
right.
It's like that lineman, is he going to have a beard in 5 years? Or is he going to?
I would hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure he hopes so too.
Never great as Mr. H, though. Mr. H has
Mr. H does have a
beard.
sick beard.
Yeah.
Took 28 years.
No shaving at all. 28 years.
Maybe like twice. Yeah.
I love it. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here for now. You guys can find us on all platforms at Not Buff Podcast, or you can bring us on the go wherever you go. If you're watching the video version of this, we're on all your favorite podcasting platforms. We might be taking next week off, so keep an eye out. But again, you can follow us on socials for clips, YouTube videos. We try to put more stuff on those platforms and stuff like that. So if you guys don't have anything else, we'll see you guys next time, and go Bills.
Go Bills.
Bills.